All right, because of the great lapse of time, it's almost impossible to locate the original seat of the old Ethiopian Empire. Yeah, you know what it is. What's going on? You listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast, and Ujumbe means message, and we're going to get right into the business. Yeah, we getting into chapter 2, the old Ethiopia and its people. Old Ethiopia and its people. All right, this is an introduction to African history geared just for you, designed to foster a life of learning. And of course, it will be once a week. Shout out to the fam. Once a week, we'll go over a few readings on the continent. Are there any other civilizations in Africa outside of Kemet? And right now, we're dealing with Kush, the Sudan. Much love to the people of Sudan, north and south. All right, let's get it. All right, we're going to deal with ancient Kush. Okay, the Empire of Kush. We highlight a lot dealing with Kemet and Egypt and everything, the from the dynastic period and so on. But there's so many other things that we can discuss, so many other topics we can discuss. And I chose to go further south. I chose to go southward, where the seat of power is. You can agree, you can disagree, let's argue, but it is what it is. Ancient Kush. The book we're coming out of, this is our test book for summer school. All right, The Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire by Sister Drusilla Houston. This was written almost 100 years ago. 100 years ago. So some of the things are dated, but I think that it's very relevant. I think it's relevant and it's a good start. It's a good start for your journey. Okay. It's a short read, but it's a good read. Let's go. And the link is in the description. As an Amazon affiliate, I earn from qualifying purchases. Check it out. Get you one while there's a few that's still on the cheap. Okay. Because after that, it kind of goes up. All right. Let's go. All right. Essential questions for today. How does Houston define the geographical boundaries of the ancient Kushite Empire? We have to understand that these are not state lines as they are drawn. Wherever the Nile River went, that's where they went. But let's talk about it. Number two, what were the significant political and cultural influences of the Kushite Empire? Okay, we always focus on Egypt and Kemet being a seat of power, political power, cultural power, but Kush had the same amount of power. All right. How did the Kushite Empire interact with neighboring civilizations? Let's talk about it. And I had to rewind this one. Evidence presented. Ethiopia, the gods and goddesses of the Greeks and Romans were but kings and queens of this Kushite Empire of the Ethiopians. That was massive because Homer, the Iliad, and many Greek and Roman stories refer to Ethiopia as being the great ones, the ancient ones. The Zungu, the Europeans, had they gave their props, they gave their respect to Africa. All right. So marvelous had been their achievements in the primitive ages that in their latter days, they became worshipped as immortals by the people of India, Egypt, Ethiopia. Our legends became legendary. These were ordinary people that did so great and wonderful things to the point to where, hey, bro, we're going to continue to tell their story. What is your story that you want the world to say, that you want your children to tell? Think about it. Go ahead. Let me know. What is the story? Was it that you got your family out of a bind? That you were the first to get a college education? What is it? Let me know. All right, let's go. Because once again, because of the great lapse of time, it is almost impossible for the original seat of the old empire to locate it. Okay, it's almost impossible. That's how old the Ethiopian empire really is. You know, in Greece and Rome, we can say this date was here and that date was there, and this happened. We don't know when. We just know over 20,000 years ago, Ethiopia was in power. And that's on record that they were a high culture, that they were a civilization. All right, let's go. All right, toward the rich luxuriance of this region. They looked for the Garden of Eden. It was not in Mesopotamia. It was not, say, in the European version of this this concept. I know in biblical stories they would look towards Europe and the Middle East for it, but in ancient times, a paradise or the Garden of Eden was seen as in Africa, as a place in Africa and nowhere else. All right. Yes. Uh, there's information in the Bible that we can lean on. Okay. Outside of that, historical facts, historical information points that Africa, I'm not saying that Africa is the Garden of Eden. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is places in Africa can be seen as a paradise. All right. And they really look, man, they look for it. Think about it. They were looking for a cat named Prester John. I'm certain they was looking for the Garden of Eden in Africa also. All right. Anyway, let's go. For the people of the Upper Nile arose the oldest tradition that rights from them sprang the first colonies of arts and antiquity. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna say it. Pictures don't lie. People do. As you notice, our sister here, she is in Ethiopia. She's in Ethiopia. Okay, but that culture is African culture. All right, as you notice, this is a set wearing the same horns and crowns of a cow. A cow is very fertile, it provides life, it provides a lot of things. And so our African people love agriculture, so they give due reverence and due respect to the cow. But also notice the child. Okay, there is a image of I said and the child, the mother and child. All right. So from these people up and out arose the oldest traditions and the oldest rites, rites of passage, be it at birth, be it in life and in death. Everything revolves some kind of rite of passage, some kind of a process. You just couldn't just become who you were supposed to become without a process. Think about your life. If anything that's worth doing and we're doing well requires a process. Okay. Think about it. But yeah, so we are going to get kind of into some of those symbolisms later on and some of those concepts and things like that. But um symbolically, we as a people have those traditions and customs that we pass down from mouth to ear, from person to person. Okay, but some of us kind of ignored it. Some of us embraced it. I'm kind of both. I kind of think about, okay, you're doing too much over here, or I understand the tradition. I understand why our schools, our HBCUs, and Black churches and Black colleges were put together because we needed our own traditions in place to make us feel whole again, to make us feel well again. All right. You can disagree with me if you want to. You can agree to disagree or whatever. But hey, I'm for a good argument. All right. But but yes, the Nile River Valley culture influenced the old world, but we have to understand it is an African culture first. All right. It's an African culture first. It is not European culture or Phoenician culture that just so happened to migrate further in Africa. It started in the center and southern part of Africa, and then it moved up the Nile. Okay. All right. But let's continue, right? Significant in political. Oh, my spelling is bad. Political culture influence. Let me fix that because I can't stand bad spelling. Let me fix that real quick because I don't like that at all. My children, my students will wear me out if they see this one. But I'm so excited about this information. I had to get it done, right? But while I'm doing this, shout out to the fam in all over the diaspora. Shout out to the fam in Brazil, in Saudi Arabia, in Texas. We just enjoyed Juneteenth festivities, all those wonderful things. I'm just happy that we had it and we did it. And shout out to the fam in California. Whoa. Shout out to fam California, New York. Oh God. South Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, the Hausa family, the Bambara family, Dominican Republic family. Shout out to all you guys in Germany, in Switzerland that are listening. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in, paying attention, and even we're learning together. We're doing this together, and I really appreciate that. So, but let's continue with the bit with the business. But shout out to all the fans. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all those wonderful things. But yeah, all right, here we go. I fixed it. Significant uh, political and cultural influence. The Greeks also said that the Egyptians derived their civilization and religion from Ethiopia. It just didn't start from just out of nowhere. Once again, I'm gonna hit this ace card one more time. There it is. Egyptian religion was not an original conception, according to Sister Houston. This was not an original thought where out of the blue they just said, "Hey, we're gonna have the pyramids. We're gonna have the Tekkanen or and all these the meta nature, all those things. They just it just didn't happen overnight. It happened over time, and it was one of those things where, say, for example, your grandmother, who you love, my grandma, I love her, both grandmothers passed down information to their sons, their daughters, and then they gave it to you. That's how it is. Okay. But we have to understand this was a longer period of time. This was a longer span of time. Okay. Thousands upon thousands of years. Okay. It just got better and better. Okay. And that's what we should do. Make things better. Don't just keep things as they are. Right. So, yeah. So Ethiopia taught was the grandmother of Egypt, of Kemet. All right, let's go. All right, now Egypt was a colony of Ethiopia. This book is dated. Okay, that for the lack of a better word, they didn't just, in a sense, as we see, say George Washington and them. No, this they they gave birth to it. They developed it. But now I'm gonna say this though. Okay, there were some kings that threw hands that developed the pre-dynastic period. King Narmer, his father, the Scorpion King. Shout out to brother Mo. We're gonna talk about the Scorpion King one of these days. We're gonna get to it. All right, but they had to come in with their people, and they threw hands. The best man won. United these 42 gnomes as a nation. It had to happen. Okay. There were several different. I'm learning that in studying Nubia and Kush, there were several various groups in that area. Same culture. But it was like, think about this. The neighborhoods of your city. Okay. In Dallas, there's quite a few neighborhoods, but they're in the same place. Okay, we have East Dallas, we have Pleasant Grove, we have Oak Cliff, we have Keystone Polk, we have in Fort Worth, we have Stop Six, we have all these places, right? And then South Dallas is in the middle of Dallas, right? All these places. All right, shout out to the fam. But they had to be there. And even in that, when I think about it, think about your own town. Right now, matter of fact, shout out your town in the comments, but think about your town. Some of your cities are pretty large. And even in that space, they can be diverse. And some of you guys look alike. But it's how you wear clothes or how you talk, and it differentiates you. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of the culture, right? All right. So Egypt was a colony of Ethiopia, and the laws and scripts of both lands were naturally the same. They all had the same rules and regulations. They followed a concept of Ubuntu or Ma'at. They followed that. Okay. If you take my cow, something's going to happen, or you owe me a cow, or some chickens, or something. Reciprocity, respect. Okay. Yeah. So the hieroglyphic writing of the Meroe was known to the people of Ethiopia. So it was not just this writing, this language was not just an Egyptian thing. This was an African thing. Just like Wolof or Yoruba, Swahili is known to various countries and states in Africa. The Meroe was known to various people in Africa. Okay. Now they may take out a word or two, but that was how they talked. That's how they communicate. There was a unifying language for the people. All right. Now let's go. Let's continue. In Greek times, the Ethiopians depicted Ethiopia. I'm sorry, Ethiopians depicted Ethiopia as an ideal state. I'm sorry, the Greeks did, the Romans did, as an ideal state. In those days, the central seat of Ethiopia was not the Meroe of our day, which is very ancient, but the kingdom that preceded that in many ages that is called Meroe. So there was an older civilization, older than Meroe, called Meroe, according to Sister Houston. It goes back. It goes further. Okay, and so the Greeks wrote about these places. The Romans wrote about these places, or they heard about them. Like we said, the seat of power, the seat of influence was older than was written. Right? A little bit more. Ancient traditions told in the deeds of Diva Nasha kings of Meroe. Okay, one of the poems of taking Troy was called the Ethiop or Ethiops. Why? Because the warriors were the Kushite Ethiopians. They were not European. So when you hear about the taking of Troy, you know, when you see a lot of Mzungus with swords and whatnot, no, it looked like these people over here. It looked like they were a little bit darker, okay, than some of your famous people that you see in Hollywood, okay, portraying these people. They were the warriors, okay? They were the ones, okay? And so in this version, get this, y'all. The version of this story of Troy, okay? This version was presented the conflict as an Egyptian war. It was not a Greco-Roman or Greece and Athens. This is Sparta 300 type thing. This was another one of those things called the Nile River War. We need to talk about that. Okay, I want to see this. I want to really, this sparked another idea, the Nile River War. Okay, to basically an attempt to save the soul of Kemet. Let's talk about that. Modern books contain, I'm reading here. This is page 30, y'all. Modern books contain but little information about country of Upper Nile, but archaic books are full of the story of the wonderful Ethiopians. They may not talk much about the Nile, but they will say something about the Ethiopians. The ancients said that they settled Egypt and it was occupying the Blue Nile. Okay. Now he called that the Red Sea area and that side towards Yemen, Ethiopia proper. And Africa contains, I read 31, contains a greater number of them, and a considerable tract in Asia was occupied by this race. So a lot of people say Asia this and European that. That's fine. But before all of this, the Ethiopian Empire occupied that space. All right. And in the Persian period, Ethiopia was an important and independent state. We're going to get into the politics, the political significance. They had not just cultural power where they had gold, they had these things, they had the meta nature, they had all these wonderful things. They held political power. What they say, it went. Whatever the Ethiopian said goes. Whatever the Kushite people said goes. Okay. So, in the researchers talked about Shabaka and Taharka, okay, the Ethiopian kings who sat on the throne of Egypt. Not some people call them the Black Kings. Kemetic kings were black too. I'm just saying. But Taharka and Shabaka. Taharka right here and Shabaka, right, on the right, they held political power. They weren't just figureheads now, like how we have nowadays, and some of our politicians and people that sit in these seats and they somebody put them there. No, they earned their right to be there and they ruled accordingly. Yeah. We need to look into those Kushite kings and queens, the Kandik, the queens that had the elephants and they threw hands and they said, no, you're not going to come here with that. But they had political power. Whatever they wrote on paper, whatever the scribes wrote on their behalf, that was law. Come on, leaders. Okay. And somebody asked a question about a good leader. What is a good leader? A good leader may not always go with what you want them to do. A leader will lead for the well-being of everybody, right? And some people think a leader is only a good leader if they're following them. That's not a good leader. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, all right, let's go. Now, what happened to the Kushite priesthood? After a series of invasions and a lack of understanding, the priests moved back south. Okay, they went back to the heart of knowledge. Okay, Abu Simbel was in Nubia. Fight come with it. They moved Abu Simbel right when the Aswan Dam was built. Check it out. But Abu Simbel was in Nubia. Okay, and these temples are in Nubia right now. Okay, they still exist, still monuments of power, monuments of knowledge. We need to study those. Okay, and so we have to understand that a lot of the priests realize that these people that are in Egypt now aren't for the information. These people kind of move differently. These people are starting to act differently. We're going to have to withdraw. Remember, the Ethiopians and the Kushite people built a lot of the original monuments there. So the original knowledge that they had was starting to be watered down, started to be diluted. They said, no, you're doing something different. And we're not talking about the golden ages. We're talking about towards the end. We're talking about towards the end, y'all. We're not talking about when the pyramids were made. We're not talking about when, the Amenhotep and many others rose to power. We're talking about towards the end after Ramses III, where it got funny. All right, when Cleopatra and them start to show up, I said, "No, we out." Okay, so with the withdrawal, I'm reading in page 32. With the withdrawal of the Ethiopian priesthood from Egypt to Napata, the people of the Lord now lost the sense of the real meaning of their religion, which steadily deteriorated with their language after the separation from Ethiopia. Once you sever your connection from your mother, that's an issue. That's a problem. Okay. And so not only the priesthood left, the military power left. Okay. Shout out to a lot of the elders, Ansar Kwesi and many others who talk about the Magi. And the Magi was the military backbone of the Nile River Valley. Yes, Egypt had a standing military, but their strong power came from Nubia. And they said, look, we out too. Okay. So they did have allies in Libya and many others, but remember, the old race of Ethiopia was starting to withdraw from Kemet. Okay. We know why, but we're not going to get into the reasons why, but that's just the way it is. But it's up to us to study and to take up that information and to pass it down and make sure that the generations behind us know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. Okay, let's go. So what's next? We're going to discuss chapter 3. We're going to discuss chapter 3. And for more on ancient Kush, check out Yahya Shabaka. He's great. And Sister Danita Smith, she's awesome. Much love to the fam. And there's some more books, ancient African civilizations, Christian Nationalism, Black Genesis by Robert Bauval, which is great. Temples and Tombs, Ancient Nubia, Prehistoric Nations. And you just got to listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. And I really appreciate you guys for listening and paying attention. And you just heard chapter 2 of Old Ethiopia and its people. And I will talk to you later.